Hi, everyone. Welcome to Designing for the Human of the Future webinar. Thank you for being here. I can assure you that you will see that you have made a great investment. I'm Brinda Serino, Senior Vice President at TVS Next, leading digital consulting and growth. I have a daily joy to work with organizations to drive transformation by aligning business strategy, human experience, and technology. My greatest learning and practice today is that outcomes only happen when these aspects move together. We are in an interesting time. There is a dramatic, undeniable shift that we are all seeing. We are seeing the birthing of a dimension of the human that we all call the human of the future. That human is not static. We've always been moving across roles like customer, employee, partner, across channels, physical, digital, and today across AI-driven, agent-led ecosystems. It's not confined to offices, factories, or special places. Think of what is happening right now. Common people are experiencing in the Bay Area Waymo rides, autonomous wheelchair assistance in Singapore airports, Starship Technologies powering SaveMart for grocery delivery. It is here. This changes the problem entirely. It's no longer about usability. It's about how humans interact, not just with digital, but with AI-enabled decisions and agents, and how that interaction drives real outcomes. Take a look at the evolution for a moment. Human to digital, omni-channel, and now we have the new entrant, which is human to digital to channel to agent to human. AI is no longer assisting, but it's participating. And isn't that powerful? But it also makes things complex. So the question now is, what are we actually designing for? Is it more technology? Is it more automation? Or is it meaningful outcomes? And that's what today is about. Not just transformation, not just design, not just technology, but how the fundamentals of problem solving has evolved for this human of the future through transformation that defines what to solve, design that shapes how it's experienced, and technology that makes it real and scalable. To bring this paradigm to life, I'm joined by three leaders who do this every day. You will see through this time with us that designing for the human of the future is evolved science, art, and math working together in the interplay between what each of these leaders represent. Please meet Shankar Ganesh, our transformation leader. Shankar brings a sharp focus on translating business mandates into measurable outcomes across growth, efficiency, and innovation, working at the intersection of AI, data, and platforms. His strength lies in helping organizations balance emerging technology possibilities with structured, outcome-driven transformation grounded in real-world business impact. Welcome, Shankar. Thank you for joining us. Also joining us today is Al Rahim Khan, our design leader. Rahim approaches transformation through a deeply human lens, ensuring every solution begins with the right problem, the right user, and the right context. His work focuses on designing intuitive, trust-driven experiences that help people engage naturally and meaningfully with increasingly intelligent systems. Welcome, Rahim. Thank you for joining us. Finally, please welcome Mihir Raghu, our technology leader. Mihir brings a pragmatic engineering first perspective to turning ambitious business and experience ideas into scalable, enterprise-grade systems that can operate reliably in complex real-world environments. He specializes in building strong technology foundations that balance speed, feasibility, cost, and long-term reliability while helping organizations navigate complex technology ecosystems effectively. Together, they represent what transformation actually looks like end-to-end. Before we dive in, a quick note for everyone joining over here, our chat is open throughout the session. So please keep the questions, the reactions, and your opinions coming in. We'd love for this to feel less like a webinar and more like a real conversation about where the future is heading according to you. So let's get started. Let's start with something we're all hearing today. Earlier, business mandates sounded like drive 2x growth through digital, expand omnichannel. Today, we are hearing deploy 50, 60, 100 AI agents. But here's the tension. Is the number a strategy, or are we still accountable for growth, efficiency, cost takeout, productivity outcomes? Shankar, you deal with this every day. How are you balancing this AI first mandate with real business impact?
To be honest, Brenda, that's exactly the kind of problem the organizations are facing today without even realizing it. I want to start with a simple but uncomfortable question for everyone to keep it in the back of their mind through this session. The question is, what if AI transformations isn't about better systems but about building better human outcomes at scale? What do I mean by that is what we are going to discuss through this session. Right now, most enterprises are operating in two parallel realities. Right? On one side, there's a very real and very urgent AI first mandate coming from the top management. Build agents, adopt AI everywhere, move fast. And the other side, if you look at from the lens of why are we doing this, nothing has changed. The business still expects growth, efficiency, productivity, and innovation. So, coming back to your question, the tension is this: we have added AI pressure, but without removing any accountability. Going from that aspect, what we are seeing across organizations currently is a pattern. Teams are building capabilities at speed, but without clarity. You will hear things like, we have deployed 40 agents, 60 agents, and even 100, 200 agents. Some startups are, going in that phase. But then the real question begins, all these agents building is fine, but to do what? Right? What outcomes are being measured? And how is this tied back to the business KPIs? And most importantly, where is the governance around it? And that disconnect is the real problem, not the AI itself. So the way to balance this is not by doing more AI, but by going back to the fundamentals. Like every initiative, whether it is AI or otherwise, must answer one of the four things. Does it drive growth? Or is it improving cost efficiency? Or is it increasing productivity? Or are we enabling innovation? If it doesn't map one of these, it doesn't belong here. So AI doesn't replace these goals. It only has value if it serves them. Now, how do we do this? We use a very simple three-dimensional structure. Firstly, identifying the human. Who are we solving this for? It could be a customer, it could be an employee, it could be a partner. So who are we solving this for? That's very important. And secondly, define the outcome. Not the tool, not the model, the outcome. That plays a vital role here. And third, assess the trust maturity. Because in reality, if people don't trust AI, they simply won't use it, no matter how advanced it is. So the first phase of any AI journey is not scale, it's winning trust. Only after that, you can drive measurable impact. Let me ground this with a practical example. Let's take something we see across every enterprises, right, which is disparate data systems. You will have different CRM systems, there will be different ERPs, and there could be even different partner platforms, and even legacy databases, but all are disconnected, right? So the instinctive response will be, let's unify everything, build a data layer, and add an AI on top of that. And suddenly the solution stack explodes, like let's build a data pipelines to bring the data together, and let's do entity resolution to map between each data sets, and reinforcement learning to learn from the data gaps, and building and conversational agents on top of that. It sounds powerful, but we always ask one simple question before that, which is, are we solving this for a better sales conversation, faster decision making, Or are we improving any customer experience? What are we going to, for what are we doing to do this? That's very important. Because at the end of the state, an agent that can answer anything across enterprise data, that's impressive. But if no one trusts the data, or if it doesn't drive the decision, the adoption stalls. So that's why we don't start with unify everything. We start with which user, which decision, and what data actually matters, right, for that decision. So then we unify just enough data and apply just enough AI and keep the logic explainable because trust matters and build feedback loops. Then only introduce something like an agent, not as a showcase, but as a way to drive specific action. Because otherwise, we risk building intelligent systems, elegant architectures that don't move even single business metric. And that's the balance we need to strike. So basically, to answer your question, Brinda, AI first doesn't mean AI everywhere. It means AI that is anchored, trusted, and outcome driven. Because at the end of the day, strategy only becomes real when it is grounded in the human experience we are solving for.
I really like how you put that, Shankar. What I'm hearing is the AI mandate should power business goals by serving them, accelerating them, and amplifying them. Every initiative, like before, still has to map to the growth, efficiency, and innovation. However, with the new lens of the possibilities that AI opens. And most importantly, you start with the human and not the technology. Though you have defined objectives, like you said, Shankar, the objective, the human, the identification of how AI can be used, we have oftentimes seen initiatives fail because of lack of adoption due to trust issues. We still have to translate that into something people actually experience and adopt. Rahim, this is where you come in. You take something like Build 60 agents that Shankar has shared with us just now with a business objective and turn it into something meaningful that gets adopted. How do you do that?
Yeah, Brenda. And honestly, that's exactly where things start to break, right? Because most organizations don't have a technology problem. They do have a clarity problem. Like Shankar said, organizations jump straight into what should be built and end up with answers like build 60 agents, build AI, or automate everything, right? But they skip the most important question, I think. What problem are we solving and for whom are we solving it for? So the first thing we do is we slow it down, we reverse it, we figure out who the human is, what outcomes actually matters to them, and what does success feels like from their perspective. Because if that's not clear, everything we build after that is just going to be a guesswork. So now, once that becomes clear, the next shift is on how we think about journeys. Traditionally, journeys were simple. It was linear, predictable, controlled. It used to be like step one, step two, and step three. But in an AI-driven world, that completely breaks, right? Journey today is like non-linear. It's conversational. It's user-driven. There is no single path anymore. A user can start anywhere, jump across steps, or change the intent midway and ask questions that you didn't even anticipate about. So we are no longer designing flows, I would say. We are designing systems that can handle possibilities. And that's a very design, like in a different design problem, I would say. Now, this is where things get practical because not every AI experience should behave the same way. We typically see these three kind of scenarios. One is the low trust environment, some places where outcome is being expected, and and automation environments. So in the first thing where there is low trust in many cases where users simply don't trust AI. If you try to fully automate in that environment, it will fail. So here the design is more about transparency, control, assistive behavior. It should be like the system suggests, but the human decides, what should be done. Because before outcomes, you definitely have to win trust. In scenario two, outcome driven. Now, in some cases, like where the data is already ready and the context exists, and there is willingness to act. So here the expectation changes. It's no longer show me information. It's about tell me what should I do. Something like a sales assistant. Let's take an example as a sales assistant. The expectation is not like like it's like don't just show pipeline data, show me like where to focus, what to prioritize, what actions to be taken. Here, the design is about speed, decision making, clarity, and driving measurable outcomes. In the third scenario, where we have seen things like an automation that already exists, like operations, manufacturing, or service workflows. Here, the goal is not to replace the human; it is to orchestrate humans and the systems together. So design shifts to human in the loop, exception handling, scale, and efficiency here. So depending on the scenario, the same AI initiative needs completely different design approach. And this is where design itself is evolving, I would say. Earlier, we used to design screens, interfaces, flows, but right now we design decision systems like trust layers, interaction between the human and the AI. We are not designing what users are clicking anymore. We are designing how systems behave around the human. And that introduces a real tension, like how much freedom versus control do we give? How much personalization versus governance? How much innovation versus predictability? I would say there is no perfect answer to this. So, Brinda, design becomes about making the right trade offs intentionally, I believe. And as designers, we can open up infinite possibilities. But those possibilities still needs to be built, controlled, scaled. And that's where I believe technology plays a very critical role.
I love how you describe that, Rahim. You start with clarity, you translated that into journeys, and then you open up infinite possibilities. Honestly, when I see the way design explores these possibilities, it feels like a child in a candy store. But like you rightly said, it raises a very real question. Is everything we design actually feasible? Can it be built? Can it scale? Can it be sustained? And importantly, does it finally dovetail back to the business sense? That's where technology does a reality check and plays a critical role. Mihir, you deal with this every day. With Gen AI, it's exploded the possibilities. AI economy, the governance, the orchestrating is so much more critical. So taking these ambitious ideas and grounding them into systems that actually work is also an art. So tell us, how do you orchestrate this complexity and bring these experiences to life without losing sight of the outcomes?
Yes, Brenda. I think this really brings together the tension we are all dealing with between what's possible and what actually works in the real world. I think I'll start with something simple. AI can speed up delivery, but it doesn't deliver outcomes by itself. So that's still on us. So when I hear mandates like build 60 agents or adopt AI everywhere, my first question is actually very basic. Do we even need AI here? And if we do we need 60 agents or do we just do with 6 done right? Because what we often see is organizations jump straight into AI when the fundamentals aren't really in place. So systems don't talk to each other, data isn't clean or trusted, and workflows are fragmented. And then we layer AI on top of that, and that almost always fails. So for me, everything always starts with foundations. Is the data reliable? Are the systems connected? And do we really understand the business process clearly? Because without that, AI is just going to amplify the chaos. Second thing is how we use current technology. Not everything needs to be rebuilt. In many cases, the answer is leverage what already exists, modernize where needed, and orchestrate across systems. Sometimes we build ground up when there's a real gap. But a lot of the time, the smarter move is orchestration and not reinvention. This is where we're starting to see a shift now. It's not just system to system anymore, it's becoming agent to agent communication. So different systems, different agents collaborating to complete workflows, which means the architecture has to be designed for coordination and not just execution. And the third piece, which is really critical, is cost. So AI is really powerful, but it's not cheap. We've seen real cases where organizations have burned through their annual AI budget in just about 2 months. And then you step back and you ask yourself, what did we actually get out of it? And the answer is not always clear. So here we have to be really deliberate. How do we apply AI? What problem is it solving? Is the cost justified by the outcome? Otherwise, you're just going to overshoot budgets and deliver absolutely no value. This is why we focus on incremental builds. Start small, build quick pilots, validate the outcomes, and then scale. So even in a world where speed is everything, I think incremental still wins. Again, to make that work, you need the right expertise. So it's not just about tools, it's about having the right experts across technology. So you have data, platforms, enterprise systems, and integration. So sometimes the best solution isn't really a new tool, it's about knowing how to use what already exists in the customer's ecosystem. And again, that brings me to a very important point. What is right for the customer is not always the most advanced solution. Sometimes a simpler system, a well integrated workflow, a targeted AI use case creates far more value than a complex, over engineered platform. And finally, again, the shift means something else. Everyone in the organization needs to understand technology, not deeply, but just about enough to make better decisions, understand trade offs, and work effectively across teams. At the same time, here we are also powering our teams with AI tools to move faster. That is, faster prototyping, faster development, and faster iterations. But again, always grounded in what we are solving and why. So, if I had to summarize, Brinda, I would just say start with foundations, be intentional about where you use AI, build incrementally, control costs, and always align to outcomes. Because at the end of the day, technology is not the goal, it's the enabler. Yeah. Okay, so I want to share a little something with our listeners now. We're putting up a quick poll on your screen. Please cast your vote because your responses will help shape and drive the next part of our conversation. And important announcement, those of you who are joining from your mobile phones, please look at the bottom of your screen or on the edges. You'll see a poll icon to participate. So the poll will start and then close in 30 seconds. Your time starts now.
Welcome back, everyone. Really interesting to see the results and where the audience is leaning here. And honestly, the responses reinforce exactly what we are just talking about. If I step back and summarize what our panelists have just brought together, Shankar anchored us in business outcomes and transformation discipline. Rahim showed us how that translates into the human need, the journeys, and the adoption. And Mihir grounded it in what it actually takes to build, scale, and sustain. And I think that's the key takeaway for me. Because transformation doesn't happen in silos. It happens when vision is powered with discipline, experience is backed with feasibility, and speed is enabled with structure. So maybe the right way to now bring this together for our audience is not just the individual perspectives, but how these individual perspectives work as a combined effort. Let's bring it to life with a real life leadership mandate. A simple leadership mandate we hear oftentimes is drive profit maximization. On paper, it sounds straightforward, but in reality, the one statement can lead to very different transformation approaches depending on the business context, the current state of the operations through the human and the digital workflows, and where intelligence for decisions and actions to drive outcome is actually needed. Shankar, back to you. When a business comes in with a mandate like this, how do you even begin solving it in the first place? It's one line. Secondly, in this AI first mandate, how do you approach it differently?
Well, the first thing we do is, Brinda, be removing the ambiguity, right? That's very important. And how do we do that is by identifying their business models first, and for whom are we trying to achieve the profit maximization. That's a key important point. For example, let's take, one is a precision manufacturing and export driven components company, and the other one is an OEM lead company, right? Profit maximization in a precision manufacturing and export driven components business mainly comes from better operational efficiency and a strong product mix. And since the business here relies on high volume production and improving profits through automation and reduced scrap and rework, higher capacity utilization, and better raw material cost management, right? So once we break the business model down into specific areas like this, the next question becomes which initiatives can create measurable impact across each of them, right? For example, reducing scrap through AI assisted quality inspection, improving uptime through predictive maintenance, or enabling faster operational decisions through unified production visibility, right? And that's where transformation, design, and technology begin to come together in a much more tangible way. If you look at the profit maximization in automotive OEM company, their business is driven by scale, long-term customer contracts, right? And technology innovation. They need to do the things newly. Since OEM pricing is tightly negotiated, profits there improve through larger platform supply agreements and higher localization and a stronger aftermarket business part, better margins, right? Business with the better margins. So, in contrast, the model shifts the focus here from operational optimization to ecosystem integration and an engineering differentiation also in some way. So, the initiatives here will look different. For example, like collaborative engineering platforms for OEM programs, localizing the intelligence across suppliers and manufacturing, or connected aftermarket experience through recurring revenue streams beyond the initial sale. Here, if you look at the advantage comes less from the efficiency alone and more from becoming deeply embedded into customers' long-term mobility roadmap, right? So in today's world, AI adoption has almost become a mandate. This is often where the conversations start going wrong because organizations, like we just discussed, jump straight into let's build AI agents before even first asking what decisions actually need AI and where it will truly create value, right? And that distinction is very, very important because two organizations can have exactly same goal but requires completely a different AI strategies. Like we have just seen in our example, both companies wanted profitability improvement, but the applicable areas where intelligence, decisions, actions were required are different. For the precision manufacturing company, the priority outcome was operational efficiency, among the others. For the OEM-led company, it was an ecosystem expansion. So the real question is, how should AI support the business model, operational priorities, and the outcomes we are trying to achieve? I think that's really the core of today's discussion, Brinda, because transformation becomes meaningful only when business context and human decision making and technology are aligned around a clearly defined outcome.
Thank you, Shankar. I really like how you framed that, how you brought precision to the conversation from the one line. So, the one line profit maximization may sound like a single business goal, but the transformation path behind it can look completely different depending on the business model, like you rightly said. One focused on operational efficiency and margin optimization, the other focused on ecosystem growth and engineering differentiation. And that's the critical point. AI strategy cannot be standardized just because the business objectives sound familiar, right? The intelligence, decisions, interventions required are fundamentally different. So, Rahim, why don't you tell us how does that change your world?
That's a very important distinction, Brenda. Organizations jump straight into what AI should be built instead of asking where does AI actually helps human make better decisions, I would say. And the answer changes completely depending on the business context. In the precision manufacturing environment, operators were already highly skilled. The issue wasn't effort, it was visibility because operators were doing things without enough visibility. So instead of trying to automate everything, we looked at the operational journey itself. So in the entire journey, where does automation helps? Where augmentation is better? Where AI can anticipate problems and where humans still needs to stay in control. That led to an AI assisted production kiosk on the production floor. The system continuously analyzes machine behavior, material quality, historical production patterns, and a couple of live operational signals like production output, count, and all those stuff. And proactively, it alerts the operator about the downtime risk, quality issues, or production deviations before it actually impacts the operation. So now AI has become the part of the workflow, not as a replacement, but it's like an operational decision support, I would say. Now in OEM led environment, on the other hand, the challenge was very different. Here the quality consistency depended like heavily on experienced operators. People are very experienced. They could identify issues through like kind of a machine sound or vibration pattern. There is a change in operational like patterns. They could easily identify it because they are pretty much experienced. So the problem was, how do you scale that expertise consistently across the organization? The system continuously analyzes machine behavior, vibrational patterns, quality deviations, and historical issue trends. But the experience remains very simple and role specific, where operators may see alerts, managers see trends and escalation risk if needed, and leadership sees only kind of that impacts the business. So while the AI underneath is sophisticated, the experience itself stays intuitive, contextual, or actionable, and trust driven, I would say. And that's really the shift, Brinda. We are no longer designing isolated workflows. We are designing systems where human and the AI continuously collaborate around decisions. In one environment, that improves the operational efficiency. In another, it improves quality consistency and ecosystem reliability. And that's really what designing for the human of the future means. And before we kind of move forward, like we would like to give you a quick pulse from the audience, because one of the biggest enablers of human-centered transformation is how well these functions actually work together inside the organization. So we'll keep the poll open for about 30 seconds, just enough time to answer honestly before your transformation design and technology teams start debating whose fault the silos are. So those of you joining from mobile phone, please look at the poll icon at the bottom of your screen.
Welcome back, everyone. Looks like we have a very engaging AI hands-on audience today. And I think that connects perfectly to the point Rahim just was making. Designing for the human of the future only works when transformation, experience, and technology stop operating as separate conversations and start working as one connected system. And what I really like about what Rahim brought in just before the poll was the shift from a reactive operations to proactive and even proactive decision making, predictive decision making. AI now has an ability to not just respond, right? In many cases, anticipate, just like driving it before an operator can see. But that also raises a very important question. Isn't all of this fundamentally dependent on the quality of the underlying data, systems, and context available? Because without that foundation, intelligence can quickly become noise. And that's where I'd like to bring you in, Mihir. There are instances where you can do nothing if you don't have any data, but there are instances where you can. I've heard of scenarios where you can synthesize data and work with it. So Mihir, tell us, when enterprises think about AI-driven experiences, data maturity often becomes the first roadblock. Is that always the right way to look at the problem?
That's right, Brinda. And technically, this is where AI starts becoming useful, because not every AI problem needs the same kind of data. I'll give you an example. If I want to do predictive maintenance, anomaly detection, or quality prediction, then I need historical data. I need to understand what failed earlier, what patterns existed, and how machines behaved over time. Without that history, prediction becomes difficult. But there are other situations where live data itself can create value. So you take machine downtime, for example. If I can see live machine signals, sensor data, operator alerts, and production status in real time, I can still help teams respond faster and make better decisions. So in this case, intelligence comes from connecting live systems and acting quickly. And then there's a third scenario where AI is not just reacting or predicting, but processing and synthesizing data to continuously guide decisions. So here it looks at the combination of market or industry trends, operator behavior, knowledge base, and business context. This keeps recommending the next best action in real time as conditions keep changing. And this is why every company starts at a different place. So one company may have years of clean manufacturing data. They can move faster into predictive AI. Another company may still have disconnected systems, inconsistent data. So their first step is really building visibility and stronger foundations. And the other important layer, I repeat, is cost. Because AI at scale is really expensive. So the more real-time intelligence, predictive models, and connected systems you introduce, the more compute, infrastructure, and operational overhead increases. So organizations will have to continuously ask, is their business value justifying the AI investment? Where does automation create meaningful ROI? And where is the simpler operational improvement enough? Because profitability is not just about adding intelligence; it's about applying it in the most economically effective way. So the technology approach really depends on how mature the data is, how connected the systems are, and what business problem are we really trying to solve first. Ultimately, Brinda, all three scenarios contribute back to the same business goal, helping humans and AI work together to drive faster decisions, to lower inefficiencies, and also smarter operations that improve profitability.
Nice. I really like how he steered that into reality, Mihir. We started with profit maximization as a problem statement, as the business objective. From there, we broke it down through the lens of business models, operational priority, the humans that are involved, the journeys, the human decisions, and the data maturity. Now, what we have arrived at is a much clearer understanding of how transformation, design, and technology come together to help the humans. Remember, like I said earlier, the human is either a customer or is an employee who's serving the customer or a partner, right? Any of those humans interact with AI and drive those outcomes in a practical and in a scalable way. And I think that is the real shift we are talking about. Not humans adapting to technology, but technology adapting intelligently to the needs of the different humans across the organization. Whether it be the production floor, whether it be the management, whether it be the leadership, the experience changes, but the outcome stays aligned. I think this perfectly captures what we mean by designing for the human of the future. It's about creating systems where people can make better decisions or move faster, aided by agents who do so in the bounded context and operate with greater clarity through intelligent support around them. Systems now are contextual, trustworthy, and deeply aligned to real business outcomes. And I think the most important takeaway is that the future will not belong to organizations that simply deploy the most AI. It will belong to organizations that ground their vision by driving it through their business model always, cover all the personas involved. Remember, the customer, the employee, the partner, map them into journeys, elevate each piece as per the need, ground them with the right technology, using intelligence thoughtfully to create meaningful experience, better decisions, and measurable impact across the business. At the end of the day, transformation is about people. It's about how humans experience work, make decisions, receive decisions, serve customers, create value in a world that is evolving faster than ever before. That's why conversations like this really matter, because designing for the future requires transformation leaders, experienced leaders, and technology leaders to come together to collaborate and build with intention. Thank you all for spending your time with us today and for being a part of this conversation. We truly appreciate the engagement and the thoughtful perspectives that has already been coming in from each of you through the session. In fact, our backend team have been messaging me, and they've been collecting some really interesting questions that many of you have shared with us live during the discussion. I think they will help us maybe take this conversation even more deeper. So now to the most interesting phase, looking at the questions. Let's open the floor and take a look at some of them. I think this one will go to you, Mihir. How do we balance speed while we're experimenting with AI, with governance and risk, especially in enterprise environments?
Okay. Good question. Thank you for whoever's asked that. I think we can balance speed and governance by decoupling experimentation from production while standardizing guardrails. So I think create a sandbox first model. So what you do is enable fast AI experimentation in controlled environments with synthetic or low risk data. I think this preserves velocity without exposing the enterprise. Define tiered governance. So apply lightweight controls like your logging, basic reviews for experimentation, and stricter policies, security, compliance, model validation. That's for production use. Guardrails. Enable guardrails early. So you standardize reusable components, approved models, secure data connectors, prompt templates, and monitoring. This reduces friction while enforcing policy. Importantly, establish clear ownership. So TPM, security, and legal should align on decision rights and escalation paths. This enables fast but accountable decision making. And lastly, continuously monitor and iterate. So use telemetry and feedback loops to refine controls as risks and use cases evolve. So if I had to say in short, move fast in governed lanes, accelerate safely by standardizing the path and not slowing the teams. Yeah, Brinda, that's what I think.
That's a nicely balanced perspective. We hear always a conflict between freedom to experiment versus really productionalizing, taking a pilot to scale, right? Thank you. I think this one is coming your way, Rahim. We all, in our organization, when we think of human, we think of Rahim. So this sounds great in theory, but most organizations are already deep in technology investments. Interesting. How do you now apply human-centered thinking when systems are already in place?
Interesting question. And a common situation when organizations have already deeply invested into technology and everything is already there. That's actually one of the most common situations we see, Brenda. So very rarely, do organizations get the opportunity to start from the blank slate, right? So most enterprises already have years of investment across the platform, workflows, or kind of the process. So human-centered transformation is not about throwing everything away and redesigning from scratch. It's about understanding where the friction exists today, where people are struggling to make decisions, where workflows are slowing outcomes today, and where AI can simplify the experience without disrupting the entire ecosystem, I would say. In many cases, the biggest value comes from redesigning the interaction layer around the existing systems rather than replacing the system themselves. So, for example, an employee may still be using the same ERP or operational platform underneath. But now AI can surface the right information proactively, guide the next best actions, simplify complex workflows, or reduce dependency on tribal knowledge as we discussed before. So the transformation becomes evolutionary, not always revolutionary. Yeah. And this is also where collaboration between design and technology becomes critical, because we are not just asking what's ideal, we are asking what is practical within the current ecosystem, what creates adoption faster, and where can we create the measurable impact with the least disruption. So sometimes even a small shift in the experience design combined with the right AI layer can dramatically improve the decision making or the efficiency and trust without replacing the entire foundation underneath. So human-centered thinking is not limited to greenfield innovation, I would say. It's equally powerful in helping organizations modernize intelligently around the realities they already operate within.
Thank you, Rahim. Thank you for sharing how you took your framework that you just discussed and made it real for both greenfield and brownfield. I hope this answers the question to the audience. We cannot leave Shankar there alone, so I'm going to choose one just for you, Shankar. This one was interesting. One of the biggest reasons I have seen this come as questions, and one of the reasons for maybe failure or success, And where transformation initiatives struggle is that organizations often treat transformation as a function led effort instead of an enterprise wide responsibility, right? So, where should transformation vision actually live in an organization? Should it be with business, IT, or design? The struggle is that organizations often treat transformation as a function led effort instead of an enterprise wide responsibility, right? So, where should transformation vision actually live in an organization? Should it be with business, IT, or design teams? I think you are on mute, Shankar. Do you mind
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry.
starting again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great question, Brinda. But I'm sure I can understand the struggle of that person who have asked this question, trying to drive the transformation. So, honestly, the fact we ask where it should live is exactly why many transformations struggle. Because if transformation vision sits only in IT, it becomes a technology led. If it sits only in business, it often lacks scalability. If it sits only in design, it could stay only conceptual, right? So in reality, transformation vision has to sit at the leadership level and implemented through cross-functional teams, because it's about deciding problems matter most to the organization, right? In the examples we have seen during the session, the progress really accelerated only when the leaders and the stakeholders across are aligned on what human problems were actually being solved, right? Not which tool or which problems to use, which platforms to use, right? So once that clarity was there, design and technology teams didn't have to debate the direction anymore. They could execute with speed because they were all solving the same problem, not different interpretation of it. So my view is transformation vision is a leadership responsibility powered by a cross-functional team, but its success depends on how well it is shared and executed across business, design, and technology.
Cross functional teams, isn't it, Shankar?
Yeah,
The power
absolutely.
of the right representations and their interplay, indeed. Thank you. So, as we wrap up, I think we're beginning to come to the end of the hour. I want to sincerely thank all of our speakers for such an insightful and engaging conversation today. I personally do know that each one of them play that role. You may have seen each of them didn't stay in their own offices. They have been able to appreciate each other's and step into each other's offices, making those interplays powerful. So, Shankar, Rahim, Mihir, thank you for bringing such distinct and deeply connected perspectives across transformation, experience, and technology. I think what made today especially valuable was not just the ideas we discussed, but the way those ideas came together as one cohesive view of what it truly means to design for the human of the future. And a huge, huge thank you for everyone who joined us live today. The backend team have been pinging me and telling me that you are from different time zones and some of you are at the middle of the night. We really appreciate your participation and your curiosity, your encouragement, right, to us. And for your time, for the poll responses, for the thoughtful questions that you shared. Your engagement truly made this discussion richer. We understand what's on your mind, so it makes us richer. Now, as a follow up, all attendees will receive an on demand replay link after the session. You can be assured of that so that you will be able to revisit and share the conversations with your team. And if today's discussion sparked ideas or challenges you'd like to explore further, we'll be happy to continue the conversation. All of our speakers are available to connect. We love to share more about how TVS Next partners with organizations to drive experience led, AI enabled transformation at scale. Thank you once again for being with us today, and we hope to continue the conversation with many of you soon. Stay tuned.